Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business Focus here on TV3. My name is Alfred Okansi, and the conversation has already been going on since Thursday after the budget presentation by the finance minister. It's a stronger economy for jobs and prosperity. That was the theme for the 2019 budget. A number of questions have been raised about certain aspects of that particular fiscal document that will guide government in terms of expenditure and revenue going into the year 2019. We're going to do a targeted analysis of the budget presentation in the next few weeks ahead of us. And we start off with the conversation on revenue generation, plucking the loopholes, and taxation going into 2019. I've been joined in studio by Dr. Ibrahim Bedi. He's a tax expert and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, and also Ramsey J. Jr. He's an investment management executive with strong knowledge base with respect to African economies. He joins us in studio. Gentlemen, thank you. And good evening to you. It's great to have you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Doc, let me start off with you, Dr. Bedi. Prior to the presentation of the budget, one of the concerns that you had was the ability of government to resist the temptation of borrowing more because we're now going to be by ourselves, not having the IMF breathing down our necks to be fiscally disciplined. Listening to the budget and the measures put in there, have you been assured that we're not going to abuse this freedom that we're having?
I think the budget had some good things, and we could look at it from that point of view, but you cannot always tell what people will do with whatever freedom they possess. But I see the budget having very good intentions, and I may want to reiterate a few of them. And so looking at the budget, it had about 5 main key pillars. And the pillars were on the issue of infrastructure, agri modernization, industrialization, entrepreneurship, then improving efficiency in revenue mobilization, and protecting the public purse, and then social interventions. Sure. And for each of this, as we go on, I think we will discuss.
Certainly.
So on the whole, I would say it's a budget with good intentions. But then there's still that big gap, because total budgeted expenditure was about 74 billion, but total domestic revenue, or revenue envisaged, is about 59 billion. So it leaves about 14 billion Ghana's cedi that must be sourced from debts. Sure. And so we are really not away from the debts. And so we still have to be thinking of how do you manage that debt, and can't we cut down on the debt and do what our domestic revenue and public grants and aids could allow you to
and that's a legitimate concern, because if you look at our revenue base, I mean, internal revenue, as in taxes, constitute about 76 to 78% of total revenue. Okay, so if we're looking at that, and then also having in mind the fact that the economy has been rebased now, debt to GDP is about 56%, how do we navigate through and look for possible options to raise this 14 billion without necessarily resorting to excessive borrowing?
Right, so luckily for us in the budget, the minister spoke about a few things. One of them is looking at the local government system, where government is now looking at doing more on property taxation.
Sure.
So there's a talk about registration of properties. The other thing we see in the budget that could also be a source of revenue is about IGF by MMDAs. We run a country where MMDAs are generating IGFs, and they seem to be spending all that IGF within the institution, and they are still waiting for budgetary allocations. So if you maximize IGF, for example, Kolebu, Rage, University of Ghana, or Tech, then if it depends upon the fees, and the minister spoke about it, they need to increase these fees and get parliamentary approval. So a lot of fees will move in, and then you will free yourself from taxation. The third thing that was mentioned is about the poor performance of SOEs, state-owned organizations, and how the monies are spent. Sure. So even before the budget came, government sent a circular about rationalization of allowances paid to boards.
Sure.
It is part of the agenda. So government is really looking at how then do you make SOEs, because these are investments that should bring you dividends or some revenue.
True.
So again, if that is worked out, you could say. Then the other part, which I find very useful, is about expenditure management programs. So government within the budget is saying it's possible you cannot raise the revenue, but if you are able to also control expenditure, then you could do things. So government in 2019 is setting up what he calls Efficiency and Innovation Unit under the Ministry of Finance, whose job is to bring innovations as to how do you cut down on spending. So the little you have. One of the things they're introducing is to bring in the issue of having a standardized designs and cost for regular capital project, a school building, a clinic, a road. So government says if we are able to do the costing right, the inflation of these things will go up. So we may not be getting revenue, but then if you cut down on cost, you still have some to
Great point there. Let me come to you, Ramsey. Yes, so it makes economic sense that, look, you plug the revenue loopholes, you save some money. You cut down on expenditure, save revenue. What will be your analysis of this fiscal document talking about the budget for 2019?
Yes, thank you, and good evening. I tend to agree with my colleague here. I think overall it was a constructive and I would say healthy report on kind of 9-month process. And as in my analysis, I actually kind of looked at kind of 9 key points that I thought the budget touched on. And we're not going to talk about all those obviously this evening, but of the 9 points, I like to just list them, and then we're talking really about 2 specific ones.
Sure.
So the 9 points I thought that were important that they were discussed: 1, governance; 2, political infrastructure; 3, education; 4, labor; 5, health and wellness; 6, trade; 7, banking and finance, which I'll talk about, which is where we are tonight; 8, media; and 9, technology, which my colleague talked about with respect to innovation and I would say entrepreneurship. A couple points within the kind of technology realm, which touches on, I think, innovation, entrepreneurship, which is part of what I think we need to do to continue with the revenue conversation. I thought it was important to talk about the NEIP, which was mentioned, the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program.
Yes.
I think that's a very good, constructive, creative piece of the puzzle that needs to be looked at.
As a matter of fact, some investments will be made into that. Some monies have been allocated to that in the 2019 budget. Yeah.
Correct, and I think that's a healthy allocation. With that, obviously, you get a return if you're able to create your own business. By definition, you have the ability to help stimulate the economy. So I think that's a big piece of the puzzle.
The catch there is that, this is not the first time we're having a program of such nature. The problem has been with the proper evaluation of the commercial viability of the program or of the business proposals that are supported by such interventions. So you tend having a lot more political patronage than what you would call a technical assessment of the viability of a program or a particular proposal. So someone who maybe happens to be a party person brings a proposal, it's not going to work, but you need to fulfill a certain political demand, and so you put the money there. Then you're unable to make the returns, because this is not free money, it's an investment which must yield some returns for the country. How do we go over that hurdle?
Good question, and I think it's a fair point. I mean, rigorous analysis is obviously part of the equation to get these things right? And my background, by definition, is ultimately being able to analyze what constructs healthy investment opportunities versus politically driven, I would say non-revenue generative, we'll call it politically driven investment opportunities. And I think at the end of the day, it's about being more transparent in the process of the diligence that goes forward, and also having accountability metrics. And I think you're right. There's no such thing as free money. Anybody who suggests that is not quite well informed. So we have to be very thoughtful about the fact that any dollar that goes out, there has to be a return, not just attached to it, but with that, there also are milestones that each one has to make. So by definition, just like we're doing a fiscal analysis of the budget at 9-month mark, it's based on what we saw projections to be, and now there's standards that are going to be held accountable to the projections that are put forth. Same type of rigorous analysis has to be made when one makes an investment in any entrepreneurial venture. That's always done with a projected opportunity set for the business that has milestones that must be met. If the individual or the company doesn't meet certain milestones, there's also contingency to be able to reclaim that dollar, or that business has to look to reposition in itself. So I'd say the overall governance structure and posture when you're allocating a dollar has to be done with the same rigorous analysis like we're sitting here talking about the budget. Multiple viewpoints, multiple perspectives, but it's also about rigorously answering and asking difficult questions. Same type of process has to be applied here.
Effective governance is key, and I think that's a great point that you make there, because I mean, you've done some analysis of African economies, so you're not very strange to this. So you have African countries that tend to fall to the temptation of going out of their budgetary projections when they're getting into an election year. 2019 is more of the eve year to election 2020. How do we resist that temptation? Or how would government resist that temptation of, for example, these projections have been made, but then has to fulfill a certain political expectation going into election 2020?
Yeah, and I think it's another fair question. I want to make this very personal, but also I think somewhat selfless. The two things also within the budget that I thought were interesting that I want to talk about that I think relate to your point, and I want you obviously to opine and my colleague as well. But as I read through it, this was the first time that a country here received the first in Africa to receive the Sustainable Development Goal status, the SDG status, yes. Effectively being able to effectively mitigate the poverty rate here in the country by half. That's the goal, try to do that in half. I think when we think about the idea of an economy being strong, you have to look at the holistic population of the 25 million inhabitants of Ghana. The idea that we lift by rising all boats as one as part of that equation. So selflessly thinking about politically driven motives are important, but ultimately it's about the lowest common denominator of the economy having a chance to participate in the economy. Part of that, whether we agree or we don't agree, 270,000 students were able to attend high school because of the free high school program that was implemented. Now, there are people who agree with that, some that don't disagree with that. I think the idea of a fully participatory economy that has an electorate and an educational system where all are individually allowed to participate is net a good thing. And so I think when you think about this, with 2019 not being an election year, it is still important to think about, are we creating economic opportunities for quote unquote the least of us, by definition who are a part of us, in order to lift entire economy at one time?
No, Doc, I think you fit it into in here. How are these pillars you've talked about going to ensure the structural governance, effective governance, so as to stay within these projections?
Luckily for us, on page paragraph 223 of the minister's statement, he makes mention of governance issues in relation to GRA. And then I will move on to the governmental level. So I read, it says, to achieve this, important changes will be made to both the management and personnel of GRA. This intervention will seek to improve the quality of leadership of GRA and boost the performance, responsiveness, and work ethics of the entire GRA workforce. The rigorous performance management tools we have started deploying will be driven to the end. Then 2 to 4 says, irregularities and revenue leakages arising out of the dishonest behavior of revenue officers will be addressed frantically. And Mr. Speaker, government will make it regular practice to prosecute offending revenue officers for criminal collusions with unscrupulous tax payers, and then this will be resolute. So this is governance issues with GRA in terms of revenue, but we must bring it up to the level of from the presidency to the list of the people. I always say that sometimes in governance we may think we are thinking about only the president or ministers, but when it comes to revenue leakages, it's down there. It's a DCE, it's a certain assemblyman, it's a certain young man. So we need to have systems that governs and punish. So thank God we are talking about even resourcing the state prosecutor's office 1 million Ghana cedis, hoping that it works and it can get the resources to work. So we must look at government from that point of view. But what I'm really afraid of is that I hope you are not doing all this because of election 2020. That may not be too good for Ghana. We must move into a country where we don't do things because elections is next door.
But we're probably going to find out from you how we resist that. I asked Ramsey that particular question and give it an answer. I'm going to go for this quick break. When I come back, it looks as though the revenue mobilization is still an Achilles heel for us as a country. We'll be back shortly after this. some briefs of some major stories that made the headlines throughout the week in business. There's more business news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit that site. Welcome back. We're still live here in studio with Dr. Ibrahim Bedi, tax expert and a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Ramsey J. Jr. is an investment management executive with some strong knowledge on African economies. We're having a conversation about resisting the temptation in two folds, a post-IMF and then also a election demands on a budget. So from what was announced, when the social and political pressure begins to mount, from what you've seen in the budget, would government be able to be disciplined enough to stick to what has been projected? Dr. Bedi.
That would be difficult to say at this point. So government need to demonstrate it. Government need to show. And if we believe in the budget we have set out there, then government should do so. But at this point, very difficult for me to
at least you can step on what has been done over the period to make a projection of what will be done in the coming days. So over the last, 21 months, have they shown or exhibited something that would give you confidence that what they are saying they will do can be done?
What we said we'll do can be done, but I think that what I've seen as a people is as if we go through the motions to get the budget done, and once it's approved and read in Parliament, we don't seem to have a good monitoring mechanisms. Because if you look at our revenues and even our budget, our revenues should allow you to achieve, let's say, 60 or 70% of your budget. If we are actually adhering to our budgets, then our national development would have been much faster. Because it's one thing having a budget and one thing running your own show. So the issues where a president goes to meet a certain constituent and gives a promise, go and fix their road, is not in the budget, Mr. President. And I'm not sure we are unable to tell our leaders that in this year it will be done. But this is not here. Wait, let's finish what we plan. So I think that's the kind of country, organizations and businesses we run. And they cut across the public sector. Budget is one thing and what we are doing is different. And so you always won't come back to the budget. And if we are able to do so and have our eyes on the ball, we can achieve.
Let's zoom into banking and finance, Ramsey, because that's an area where I know you're really interested in. Did the budget speak to that area? And let's do the analysis from there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I 2 points on the last point and then to tie into what you're saying. I think part of also what we have to continue to think about is when we think about the word tax, traditionally some people hear the word tax and it has a moniker or a label that goes out and it has a negative connotation, right? Sure. And the way I want to continue to help us all continue to think about it is tax usually is indicative of your ability to participate in the process.
Absolutely.
Right? And so when you think about being participatory in the process versus being penalized by the process, it changes the whole narrative around taxing. Taxing suggests you have a job that allows you to earn a fair wage. Tax says you have a home that you're able to live in. Tax says you're able to go out and earn an education that allows you to earn a certain dollar amount. Tax says you're an entrepreneur who has the ability of tax benefits by being able to establish trade and industry. So part of the word taxation, when we talk about it, I think part of it is shifting, continuing to know that it's also not punitive, but it's indicative of participating in the process.
To the people in the formal sector, they think the whole tax system appears to be punitive. So if you're having someone who earns 300 cedis still being taxed because the person is within the formal bracket, and you have an informal sector that's actually the largest part of the economy not being taxed in the sense of the word, then it appears that there's an automatic exemption for informal sector players, and that's where the concern is.
And I think you're making a fair point, and that's where the conversation of participate versus punitive has to get more acutely focused. And part of what that does at the 22-month mark, it also begs us to all ask the question of now that we go forward for the next part of the administration, I think its proof is in the pudding. You've done a great job of laying the pipeline, laying the infrastructure, telling us the plan, but now it's about execution and it being held to task for performing that which you suggest can be done. I think the next 24 months is about proving versus talking. No more talk, now it's time to back that up with actual actions that lead to execution in the process that we've heard about.
Good point there. And finally, Dr. Bedi, there's a proposal that NAPCO beneficiaries, for example, should be taxed, because if someone is earning 300 cedis in the formal sector and the person is being taxed, how about NAPCO beneficiaries who are earning 700 cedis? Would you go by that proposal? That's coming from PwC, actually.
Yeah, it's possible to tax them so they have a sense of what it means to pay taxes and all that. But I guess government is not taxing. You are looking at probably you are supposed to pay a graduate 1,500, I give him 800, and so you waive the tax off. But for me, happily enough, section 116, sorry, section 231 of the budget gives us a lot about what government is doing to broaden the tax base. So government says in 2019 they are going to require that citizens show their TIN before accessing social services.
Something we're very passionate about.
Like free healthcare, free senior secondary school, then begin 2019, and others like the DVLA, passport, banking services, as well as mobile money services. So this will rope in a lot of people into the net. And if we are able to implement it, then 2019 we should have our direct taxation numbers move from the 1.5 you're talking about to about 10 million or 15 million. Because if 1.5 million can give you about 65% of your budget, then if you move it to about 10 million, then probably we should exceed our budget.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I want to thank you. This is just a first phase of this particular conversation with you. We'll roll it over again next week to the second phase. Dr. Ibrahim Bedi, tax expert, senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Ramsey J. Jr., investment management executive with strong knowledge on African economies. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we'll still continue on the tangent of post-budget analysis because the PwC, that's auditing firm, had a panel discussion, I beg your pardon, today on the theme for the budget, a strong economy for jobs and prosperity. And it had Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, who is the CDD Executive Director, Ken Ofori-Atta, Finance Minister, Aisha Bedwe, who is a senior partner at PwC, and Al-Hassan Andani, who is the president of the Association of Bankers. Let's take a look.
It's a mixed bag. We can see a lot of focus on compliance and also domestic revenue mobilization, which is where we need to go if we want to achieve the targets that we have. I think the minister gave a fair overview, and so did we, in terms of our analysis and our assessments. And we really are looking forward in 2019 to seeing everybody pay their share. So not just those of us in this room, but the other people who are outside. And informal sector doesn't always mean the wache seller or the carpenter, but it also means people who own businesses who are easily identifiable, the guest house owner, the people who have car dealerships and so on, who are clearly in plain sight and not contributing their share. And we also look forward to, the laws being enforced. So we are happy to hear about the prosecutions. We hope that they will take place because, we are sensing amongst the business community that there's a general fatigue in terms of taxes being levied upon them and just the feeling that they keep, coming back to them to keep contributing. So it'll be great to see the enforcement in the coming year and to see everybody paying their share.
Now, these matter to us not only because we are interested in assuring social peace, but unless the macroeconomic indicators translate into these things in real life, we also believe that political pressure will mount, social and political pressure will mount, especially on the eve of an election, for interventions and expenditures that will prove disruptive to the economy and to our fiscal discipline. So these are really also economic issues for us. And when we look at the 6 pillars that undergird this budget, we believe that investments in those areas are the right kinds of investments to impact SDG goal 8, I think, is on decent work and economic growth. CDD with Afrobarometer will be releasing just this morning at Holiday in the latest of our surveys into SDGs. And what it shows is that most Ghanaians, like most Africans, prioritize decent work and economic growth as the key SDG that the governments must be pursuing. So it's entirely consistent with the theme of this budget. Yeah. What we're hoping is that commitments that have been made will be followed through. It would require a lot of good governance to do that. So we are hoping that there would be real commitments follow through in these areas, that there will be effectiveness, credibility, integrity in our state institutions, that must enforce these, as well as, and this is important, good governance is also important to meet revenue projections and targets and all the expenditure things, because if we don't do well on those will slip. So on the whole, we think we're still in the process of going through the numbers to see what the allocations would mean in terms of distribution, in terms of how they affect agricultural value chains and the like. But we are very positive on the whole on the budget.
Okay.
For us on the business side, we see a lot of positives, i.e. We've seen the interest rates trending down. We've seen inflation heading where it is. The trade deficit now we're having a trade surplus. We've seen some reasonable stability in the FX rate, but we'd like to see the fundamentals addressed. We have seen the discipline that government has achieved under the IMF policy. However, if I sit and listen very carefully, we are worried that, we all run budgets, and when you run a budget, you are 85–95% certain of your revenue. Now, this budget, and if you listen to the Honorable Minister, the toughest is about a conversation on revenue mobilization.
Welcome back to Business Focus. Now, the maiden edition of the Media General Startup Fair and Funding Summit ended on a very high note, with many of the exhibitors asking for more.
Hosting over 200 startups since the Mover segment was introduced on TV3 Business Focus, not only has it won awards for its dedication and commitment to grow startups, but has also come to appreciate the challenges startups face. The maiden edition of Media General's Startup Fair and Funding Summit took place at the Aviation Social Center in Accra. The fair opened on November 16 at the Aviation Social Center. The two-day event brought together local startup peers, key industry thought leaders, mentors, educators, and investors for interactive dialogues on relevant entrepreneurial topics. Exhibitors also had the opportunity to network and get the right information on access to business financing. Over 50 exhibitors were present to display their products and services, as well as network to grow their business. There were a variety of items on display, from footwear, clothing, furniture, decor, and food for patrons to enjoy, window shop, and buy.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What is the name of your company?
We have Vicky's Collections and then Surprisey.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So what do you do?
Vicky's Collections basically deals with collection of local beads and accessories. It's a one-stop shop for all kinds of fabric accessories. If you look around, you can see vests, fabric purses, fabric bags, bangles, and all that. And then Surprisey deals with Within. We're a distributor to Within. So if you want authentic Within designs, you come to our joint and then you get some for yourself. You're welcome, sir.
So what's your company's name?
Fab Haven.
And what do you do?
We sell perfumes. Actually, it's a network marketing thing I'm doing. It's based in Dubai, but I want to introduce it here in Ghana. Our products are the perfumes. So with a startup as low as $150, you can start up your own company with us. Yeah, I'm trying to allow people to know about the products and also what it's about, the perfumes, and also how to join in the company.
My name is Kale Furijan Enterprise, and then I'm from Cape Coast. I'm into production of detergent, and then we are into production of this Marvel oil degreaser, which is used in washing of car engines, and then it is locally made in Ghana. And then we have registered this with the Ghana Standard Authority in Ghana here. So you just use about half of it, this 1 liter, and then half it would be 500 mils, and then you pour it on the engine And when you get to the washing bay, they use the washing machine or the spraying gun, then they wash it off. It is better for you to use this one, and then it doesn't have any effect on the engine. We've been using this one about a year ago before we registered the product, and then it is now coming up. We have a whole lot of it. And then we have this one, the Perma Cleanser. This is a multi-purpose cleanser which is used cleaning the floors, tiles, terrazzo, and then the WC, your sink, and then even your fridge. When the color is dim, you use a little on it, and then you watch it, and then the color will come back.
God First collection.
And then I'm here.
God First collection, yeah, sandals, slippers, and a shoe. Oba shoe na ye the shoe papa ye the lead and kasa na ye the wole and ye to boss na ye mpaboa no tin mpaboa no sha eche yi
nti Ghana he na moye no ana se mo koye no abrochire na mo deba
Ghana he na ye no ye Kumasi asafo ho na ye sa mpaboa mu na
many boss foforo na me ka se bia mo import kra ye nema fe twa yi pa nti ehin na mo wo
esi ye Kumasi asafo Central Market o hwe ho na ye wo.
Yeah, hello. My name is Mubarika Audu. I am the CEO of Northern Pride Smokes. At Northern Pride Smokes, we make Fugu fabrics, and with the Fugu fabrics, we make bags, we make purses, we make slippers, we make handbags, sandals, and then laptop bags, career bags, school bags, and stuff. Apart from that, we also sell ready-made dresses, like we have here. We have for both kids, we have for men, we have for women. We also do stone embellishments. Like if you want us to design, put embellishment inside so that you look different on your wedding day, we also do that for everything. We also do beading as well on garments. If you want us to make purses for you to match your clothes, we also do that. We also take orders for making bags as well. So you can see here, this is a sample of a Fugu bag that we have done. This is a combination of Fugu and leather. We also have the one that we have it with denim, like jeans. That we also have the glam collection that we use chain and other stuff to do them.
All right, hello, my name is Kelvin. I work with Casa Clothing. It's a tie and dye business. We have shirts, short sleeves, long sleeves. We have t-shirts, we have shorts, we have trousers, skirts, anything at all. We dye everything.
This is Coco Crunch. Coco Crunch, we basically handle or produce quality plantain chips. We also have peanuts, and then we have cocoyam plantain chips as well on order. We are located at Adabraka on the Graphic Road. It's very quality, it's very crunchy, and so you don't have to waste your time to buy anything in traffic. Just call us and we'll give you the best. We have a lot of sizes. We have the family size, we have individuals, we have the smallest size that anybody can patronize. Just
Empresa Kimat. We are into detergents and then fruit juice, and then fruit sculpture for events. And then we do pork and yam too for events. We have here Parazone, Empresa Kimat Parazone for washing of white clothes. And then we have the Empresa Kimat scrubbing detergent, perfumed floor care for your washrooms. It removes stain. Yes, and then we have a coconut milk shower gel, which is made up of coconut milk, lemon juice, and sandalwood and other ingredients. We have our lip balm too here, scented lip balm for Hamatan.
Oh, all right.
For dry lips.
Just around the corner.
Yes, please. And then our scented candles too are here.
All right. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
The name is Arisera Herbal Research and Clinic, and I am the CEO. My name is Dr. Frank Ewa. When you come to our end, we listen to your complaints. That's a consultation. And based on that, we request laboratory examination, laboratory tests for examination pertaining to diagnosis. So based on the diagnosis made, then we give out a herbal medication. We are solely in herbal treatment. So yeah, conditions like hepatitis B, syphilis, malaria, typhoid, prostate enlargement, prostate cancer, peptic ulcer, pressure, and what have you.
Exhibitors of the Maiden Media General Startup Fair and Funding Summit are already asking for more other fairs to be organized.
I personally think that this program was organized for me because I've been able to meet the CEO of Maslock. He has given me the assurance that he's going to invest in my business. And personally, I've made some sales, very good sales.
So far, so good. I'm so glad. People started calling me after the first interview. So people called me from Tamale. So people called me from Kaswa, Accra. So for me, it has been so good. It has been so excellent.
The funding summit was perfect. I've learned a lot. I know who to go to, what to do, who to talk to, how to even pitch my business. I thought I knew how to pitch, but I know I've learned some more. So
TV3, together with its other platforms, in its bid to ensure startups succeed in the business terrain, will continue to remain committed in giving a platform for the various startups in Ghana to enable them thrive and succeed in business. MG Startup Fair and Funding Summit. Expand your network, grow your business.
That was what was the case. It was not just about making sales, it was about knowledge acquisition, networking, and the exposure as well. Great work done by the business team here and every other unit here at Media General. And on behalf of the rest of the team, we believe that the small businesses of today will be the big businesses of tomorrow. Thank you, as always, for staying with us here on Business Focus. We're getting to News 360. My name is Alfred Okanse. Good evening.